Alright, so I'm going to show you how to use add tween frame in stick nodes. When you click on the frame, you're going to see the button right there. What you can do is that when you create your keyframes, you can go and create these add tween frames in between those keyframes. So as you can see, these different options show, it displayed on the image above. So I'm just gonna create like my start position here and then the end position from the ball going left to right, and I'm just gonna add those keyframes in between that. So you can see that I'm just animating with only using the add tween frame button. So it just creates a in-between frame in between those, the starting and the end frame. Alright, so I'm gonna create a little ease in and ease out type of thing. I'm just purely just using the add tween frame here. I'm not even moving the ball or anything. I'm just gonna use the add tween frame to create like a little ease in thing, and then it speeds up and then it just eases out. So if I play the animation, it creates easing, right? So that tween frame is really just basically that. You create your keyframes, or if you feel like some part of the animation is too fast, then you can just use that button to add that little keyframe that you're probably too lazy to add. I don't normally use it, but it's good to use if you just can't bother to add certain in-betweens in your animations. So the next one here is where it adds 2 in-between frames instead of 1. So the 50 just only adds 1. This adds 2 in between those, the start position and the end position. So this adds 2 keyframes. So it could have looked a little better if I knew how to use it, but as I said, I normally use the 51. So yeah. So now I'm just like deleting the frames and then creating more of these keyframes, and to show you what the other one does. So this one just adds a keyframe in between your start position and a keyframe at the end position, and not necessarily like in the middle like the other ones were doing. But as I said, you can pick whichever one suits you depending on how you animate. I personally think it's just best to use the 51, and it's also not good to abuse that tween frame, because if you animate, you could tell that certain parts of the animation is just pure add tween frame that is just abused in that section. I feel like to really maneuver how to use it, you still have to know basic animation, like animating. You still have to know how to animate to use it properly. You can just add tween frame just because you want to make your animation smooth, and then it just looks robotic and just looks weird, so yeah, that's basically it. I'm gonna just play around with it so you can see how I use it, and then I'm just gonna use a stick figure as I normally do to display how you can use this shit. So yeah, I'm just showing here that I'm using like both 50 and the other one together. So I'm using like the 50 to add like ease in, and then I'm using the other ones to add like a little 2 frames in the middle to make it not that fast. But you can just play around with it, move around your stick figures and use the add tween frame and see how best you can make it help you to do certain things. So I'm just creating like huge spacing, like I'm not even putting no easing into any of these, so I can just show you how how good you can use this add tween frame thing for your advantage to make your animations much smoother. But as I said a while ago, that you still have to have basic understanding of animation to really use it properly as best as you can. So you can use this to, give yourself the upper hand to make your animations way smoother. Or you can just use tween. You know, like, it doesn't kill anybody to use tween. Tween is not, I don't think it's a bad thing. If you feel like you want your animations to look a little smoother, however you want to make your animations look, if you want it to be smoother, or even if you're like a beginner, it's best to just use tween to, give you that smoothness than to just not use tween. And later on, you can just practice without it if you want. So I'm just gonna add my stick figure here and just display how you can create create a little animation using the figure while using the add tween frame. I don't think this is really hard. I don't think this tutorial is really like a hard tutorial where like you can't follow. It's just basically, it's kind of simple. Just create your animations, and if your animations look like too fast at a certain part, just use the add tween frame. Don't use it a lot though, okay? You don't want it to look too slow or too like weird. Just use it to where you know that you can create some easing points, to where you ease in, then you ease out, so you create a nice motion and flow for your animation. And you can still use like 24 frames per second and all that, especially if you're using 24 frames per second, because you have to have like a lot of frames to make sure that the animation is nice and smooth, especially at some parts where you want the animation to be smooth, and then some parts you want animation to be fast. So it's good to still can be used. You can even still use it at 15 frames per second, even 16, 17, however you animate. Just try your best not to like overuse it. Still implement certain things in your animation, and do not rely on it. It's not something you should rely on. It's just something that you should use to like help you. Or if you're lazy like me, you can just use it. Use it whenever you want to use it. But most of my animations, I don't really use the add tween frame. Sometimes I don't even remember that it's really there. So you just gotta. I'm just gonna create the simple punch, and I'm just like in those big parts, those big spacings, I'm just gonna add little in between frames in that. So that's just the best way I could tell you how you can use that feature in stick notes, is to just help you create those little in-betweens that you're maybe not sure of how to like add. Maybe if you're not sure to add how you would add your in-between into the animation, you can use that as like a guide, and then you can fix it up, because sometimes it will look a little weird because it's tween. It's tween, so you're gonna have to like fix the frame. It's not gonna always be accurate, obviously, because it's the app, it's working off the app to add that in between frame. So certain parts you would have to like fix. Maybe you'd have to bring the stick figure more closer to the frame, or maybe the hands look a little weird, so you can just go fix that up, and you're basically good to go with that. And I'm gonna show you why I say this too, because especially doing these type of punches where like the arms are like at the back and it's gonna go forward, when you try to add that in between frame, it's like it brings your hand all the way up, like like you're doing like a circle, like a circular thing, which that's not what you want. You want it to just snap into that punch. So when I creating this animation, I'm trying my best to not like you know to not put that much ease into it, but it's really just a muscle memory for me. So cause I want it to look, I want to give it that look like there's no ease in, and then I can just add the I can just use the feature add the tween frame, so you can just create that little nice ease in. But it was kind of hard because, as I said, I don't need it. I don't really use it. I don't really use it that much. In most of my animations, I've never really used it. But it's a good feature to use, and I feel like you can get your animations done quicker. You know, if you want something to be quicker, or you want a specific scene to finish faster, it's really good to use, and I think I should probably use it more often. It saved me some more time creating these animations. See that the animation, I mean, it doesn't look bad. Looks pretty fast, but it doesn't look bad, to be honest. But I'm gonna add the I'm gonna add some like double frame on these parts where like the character lands his attacks. And when I add the double frame to it, like, this looks good. Like, this doesn't need any add tween frame to me. Maybe if you want maybe if you want the moves to look a little bit slower, then sure, but I don't think this really needs any add tween frame. But either way, I'm gonna add the tween frames here, so you can see that that's what I was talking about, where it puts your hand, puts the hand, the character's hand all the way up. So I just added a little bit. I'm just scrubbing through the animation to see where I can add some more tween frames. But as you can see that I'm not adding add tween frames everywhere in the animation. I'm just going to specific points where like the movement seems a bit too fast, or maybe the spacing is a bit too big at those parts. Then I just like add the add tween frame so that it creates the in between, like like places like those. So at these parts, like where the attack is like hidden, I'm just the double frames that I added earlier, I just deleted them because I feel like it would make the animation a bit too slow for my liking. So I'm just going through here, just scrubbing through, see where I can add little add tween frames. So this is just basically, the way how you can use that feature. You don't have to just, like, you create your animation, you have no ease in it all, and you're like, okay, let me just add tweet frame every part of the animation, add tweet frame every frame. Hey, maybe if you do that and it works out for you and it makes your animation looks like really good, then fine. Do what you gotta do what you think is comfortable for you. Do what you think is like faster for you. If that makes your animation much more faster, like helping you create it, then fine. Do whatever you want to do. This is just my way of how I would use the add tween frame. So you can see some parts some parts of the animation is slow, it speeds up, and it has a nice motion to it. And you can't really tell that I used the add tween frame. You can't really tell that I used it. If I want to add more at certain parts to make it a little bit slower, you can do that. And also, this feature is also good for doing like slow motions as well. Like maybe you have a part in your animation where you want to create a slow motion effect, which I feel like I'm gonna create a video on that. How to create like a little slow motion effect thing. So you have a part in your animation where you have a little slow motion. You want to put like a slow motion thing going on. You can use the add tween frame to help you to create that instead of you just manually, moving the character slowly and slowly to create that slow motion effect. I'm gonna create a video on that. So this is just basically how it looks. This is just with add tween frame, and I created this other animation here. It looks good. It's nice. It's smooth. It's not bad. So you can play around with it, mess around with it, see how find ways on how you would use it to help you create animations faster, or create better in-betweens, and just play around with it. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video, and see you.